Pop and Op Art, an Innovation in History by Ariel Wolf. Paintings and drawings have been around for centuries and progressed over time. During the Dark Ages, art appeared flat, two-dimensional, and lacked deep emotion. Art gained perspective and extravagant color during the Renaissance by using different techniques such as oil pastels. These paintings only captured views of real, everyday life rather than fabricated ideas. Impressionism was started in 1875 and expanded into abstract, Fauvism, Cubism, Futurism, Dada, and Surrealism. These styles defied logic, and the idea of drawing from imagination rather than what was physically there became more popular. By 1950, the world was still hesitant about imaginative art, but pop and op art helped influence that change. Pop and op art ensnared the sense of sight and baffled the mind of its viewers in perplexing ways that previous art could not. This broke the barrier of persistent duplicates of the limited, realistic painting styles and allowed a new era of unique expression to take root. Pop art, which is brightly colored, symbolic paintings, didn't start in America, but in England in the 1950s. An organization called the Independent Group was a gathering of artists, and their main topic was pop art. Richard Hamilton led the Independent Group and founded his own college. He was an initiator of pop art. His work became so well known that his friend, Paul McCartney, had him design the Beatles' White Album cover. Richard's most famous work was Just What Is It That Makes Today's Home So Appealing? Another member of the Independent Group was Sir Edoardo Palazzi. He was very well known and received many awards for his art. His paintings include many objects and people mixed together. Pop art was a breakthrough and was carried overseas to America by the early 60s and immediately took hold in America's culture. There were several artists who helped transfer the movement. Peter Blake is well known for designing the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album. His artwork consists of comic books and products. David Hockney's work involved the illusion of movement, as his work with the swimming pool demonstrates. When World War II ended, so did the Depression. Pop art became more widespread because of the improving economy and wealth of America. This is comparable to the transformation from the Dark Ages to the Renaissance. The intention of pop art is instantaneous symbolic meaning, unlike other artwork that was more literal. At first, in America, it was thought that pop art was intended to make a mockery of other art such as abstract expressionism because of its lack of symbolism. Pop art is similar to Dada, which was an earlier art movement. Dada took the strictness of art and made fun of it with ordinary objects such as scraps of metal. Pop art expanded Dada's idea that art could be made from everyday things. In order to draw more interest, pop art used easily identifiable icons such as film stars, food products, celebrities, and cartoons because of its alluring effect. With aid from TV and music, pop art was being spread more quickly. Pop art was becoming more accepted because it was inexpensive to construct, imaginative, brightly painted, and consisted of famous people, which attracted major attention from the general public. Jim Dine was an American pop artist who mixed media with his ideas. Roy Lichtenstein was another American pop artist whose comic strips are easily recognizable. Robert Rosenberg's pop art consisted of collages with unusual color and objects that most people considered trash. Andy Warhol was the most famous pop artist. He lived in New York and painted iconic pictures of Marilyn Monroe, John Lennon, Mick Jagger, and the Campbell's soup can. Not everyone enjoyed pop art. Critics proclaimed that the art was lowbrow or moronic. One of the leading critics, Harold Rosenberg, said, "Pop art is like a joke, without humor, told over and over again until it begins to sound like a threat. Advertising art, which advertises itself, is art that hates everything." Despite the negative criticism, pop art was, and still is, one of the most common styles of art. Pop art is credited with influencing the public with new ideas that other art movements have not done. Pop art's popularity faded around 1962 with the terror of the Cuban Missile Crisis and the onset of the Vietnam War. The playful, trivial tone of pop art no longer fit in with the seriousness Americans were experiencing. Pop art was revived with neo-art in the 1980s. Some examples are Jasper John's False Start, Andy Warhol's 8 Elvises, and Jeff Koons' Michael Jackson and Bubbles. Pop art is still alive today, whether it's celebrities like this picture of Rihanna, or this ad campaign for Obama, this child's cartoon called the Powerpuff Girls, or even this commercial ad for the iPod. Pop art is everywhere. One modern neo-pop artist is Daniel Edwards. He did sculptures of Britney Spears giving birth to her son, Oprah Winfrey's burial mask, and even Paris Hilton being dissected. Optical art is also known as retinal art or op art. Op art consists of geometric shapes that work together with specific vivid colors to create an illusion of movement. The priority of optical art is to deceive your vision and create depth even though the painting was done on a two-dimensional surface. Nothing in op art is chance. Every line, color, shape, and style is purposely chosen to create the illusion of movement. Pop art wouldn't have been accepted if it weren't for previous art like expressionism and abstract art that broke the tension between fine art and expressional art. There are two methods that are used in op art, and that is perspective illusion and chromatic tension. Even though optical art appears to be moving, it actually isn't. Time magazine invented the term optical art in 1964, and Denise René was the first gallery owner to display op art to the public. In 1965, a major exhibit by the Museum of Modern Art in New York caused optical art to grow with popularity. The art started appearing on TV, in advertising, album covers, clothes, and decoration. Swiss painter Richard Paul Loos worked with math, specific patterns, and grids in order to paint optical art. Even though this took an exceedingly long time, Richard received many acclaims for the beauty of his art and the complicated design. Bridget Riley is probably the most famous op artist. Her work was inspired by Giacomo Balla and Umberto Bosini, who were futurists. She mainly painted in black and white, but used simple designs that resulted with huge impacts. Once she experimented with black and white, she tried using colors. In 1968, she won an award at Venice Biennale. Ever since then, she became a household name. Richard Anauskas was a leader of the op art movement. He used many common shapes in his art, but he added color to make them more interesting. His paintings were bright and intense. He said, "My work is of an experimental nature and has centered on an investigation into the effects of complementary colors of full intensity when juxtaposed and the optical changes that occur as a result, and a study of the dynamic effect of the whole under changing conditions of light and the effect of light on color." Even though this style of art wasn't given a name until 1964, Victor Varselli is credited with doing the very first optical painting, The Zebra, in 1938. He worked with patterns and weird perspectives. His paintings seemed very real and unusual with the different angles. Optical art is still around today. Optical designs show up on clothes such as dresses, runway fashion, and purses. Optical art is also used by average people. This is an optical tattoo that makes his skin look torn. This body paint gives the optical illusion that his neck is actually a mouth. Optical art is also used in advertising, as you see here with his beverage being displayed. A modern-day famous optical artist is Julian Beaver. He constructs chalk drawings on the sidewalk that appear three-dimensional. The water fountain and pipeline is actually a drawing done on a two-dimensional surface. Here's Julian's drawing of a whale that broke through the ice. His drawings gather much attention from the general public. Regular art was traditional until the 1900s and consisted of drawings of the body, the face, landscapes, and general scenes of everyday life. Pop and op art completely rebelled against regular art. Regular art was all about the quality of the work, the effort put into it, and the final outcome, while pop art is the significance of the idea that the art is representing, and op art was more imaginative rather than using scenes from everyday life. Therefore, pop and op art completely revolutionized art and created a new style that is both admired and different from the average literal paintings. This made pop and op art an innovation in history.